I found myself ensnared within the pages of a tale rife with deception, embodying the role of the malevolent impostor, the false heiress who had been mistakenly cherished. According to the narrative, I was destined to be cast out from my home, left to wander the streets, ultimately meeting my demise beneath the wheels of a suitor enamored with the true daughter. On a fateful rainy night, in a desperate bid for survival, I sought out my biological parents, an unassuming couple who made their livelihood crafting paper effigies. On the day of my return, my parents greeted me at the threshold with 3 paper figures ablaze, proclaiming them to be my protective substitutes against misfortune. That very night, those sent by the true heiress to exact revenge met an inexplicable and tragic fate, encountering a catastrophic accident en route, 3 lives extinguished in an instant. The following day, as my father perused the news, he pointed at the charred remnants of the vehicle on the screen and calmly remarked, "My dear daughter, observe how resilient our paper figures are. My name is Suwan. Before being expelled from the Jiang family, I was known as Jiangwan. The Jiang family is a prominent aristocracy in Yun City, and I was merely their false daughter for 18 years. When the true heiress, Jiangwan, returned, all my accolades faded, and I became a vile interloper, a malicious thief. I attempted to explain and plead for my place, but my adoptive mother, Jialan, regarded me with disdain. The Jiang family has no daughter as wicked as you. You are as rotten to the core as your impoverished parents." My adoptive father, Jiang Zhenghua, contemptuously tossed a bank card at my face. "There are 100,000 yuan in here. Take it and never show your face to us again." What they failed to realize was that I had foreseen this entire scenario. I had unwittingly stepped into a novel titled The Return of the Heiress, the boss's pampered darling. In the story, I, consumed by jealousy towards the true heiress Jiangwan, continually plotted against her, ultimately being cast out. On a stormy night, I was fatally struck by Jiangwan's obsessive admirer, Lin Qin, leaving my remains unrecognizable. To save my life, I did not hesitate to take that card and sought out my biological parents. It led me to a dilapidated old street, at the end of which hung a pale lantern inscribed with the words Suji. My biological parents, Su Cheng and Lu Qing, resided here, making a living by crafting paper figures. Standing at the door, I gazed inside at the myriad of paper figures, paper horses, and paper wealth hanging on the walls, their expressions eerie yet lifelike in the dim light. A cold breeze swept by, causing me to shiver involuntarily. "Darling, you're back." My father Su Cheng emerged from within, his face gaunt yet his eyes bright, holding a bamboo knife for cutting paper. My mother Lu Qing followed closely behind, carrying a brazier, offering me a gentle smile. "It's good that you've returned. There are many unclean things outside. Let me ward off the misfortune for you." With that, she brought out 3 paper figures, each about my height, dressed in funeral garments, their faces adorned with exaggerated makeup and sinister grins. One by one, she cast them into the brazier. As the paper figures ignited, flames roared to life, casting flickering shadows down the entire street. My father stood beside me, softly declaring, "From this day forth, you are Suwan." That night, I slept exceptionally soundly. The following morning, I was awakened by the news broadcast emanating from the living room. Late last night, a severe car accident occurred on the outskirts of the city. A black sedan collided with a truck, resulting in the instant deaths of 3 individuals. The scene was horrific. The television displayed the charred remains of the black car. My father, Su Cheng, emerged from the kitchen with a bowl of congee, coincidentally witnessing the broadcast. He gestured towards the television, his tone as calm as if discussing the weather. "Darling, you see, our paper figures are quite sturdy." My hand holding the congee trembled violently. My father's words sent a shiver through me, yet I dared not inquire further. After breakfast, I received a call from Jiangwan. Her voice, tinged with suppressed fury and a hint of terror, reached me through the line. "Suwan, it was you. Wasn't he it?" I feigned ignorance. "What do you mean? Miss Jiang, perhaps you have dialed the wrong number? Stop pretending. The people I sent to find you are dead. What kind of sorcery did you employ?" Her voice was shrill and piercing, devoid of her usual gentle demeanor. I let out a cold laugh. "Jiangwan, what goes around comes around. Perhaps they brought this upon themselves with their misdeeds. You'd better watch yourself. Suwan, I won't let you off easily." Her voice broke as she slammed the phone down. I set my phone down, only to realize my mother Lu Qing had silently appeared behind me, scissors in hand. leisurely trimming the hair of a paper figure. Without looking up, she inquired, "The girl from the Jiang family?" I nodded. "Her heart is unkind. Her life will be short." She snipped off the last strand of paper hair, handing me the petite paper figure. "Keep this under your pillow." It was a paper girl dressed in a princess gown. Her features exquisitely painted, and upon closer inspection, she bore a striking resemblance to Jiang Nuan. A jolt of surprise coursed through me as I accepted it. In the afternoon, my former mother, Zhao Lan, contacted me. Unlike Jiang Nuan, her tone was not hysterical, yet her air of superiority and biting sarcasm remained unabated. "Jiang Nuan, do you have no shame? Nuan was kind enough to send someone to check on you, and you repay her with malice, leading to their deaths." I couldn't help but laugh in disbelief. "Ms. Zhao, which of your eyes saw me cause their demise? The police have classified it as an accident. Moreover, please call me Suan from now on." "Suan? Do you truly believe you are the daughter of those paper figures? You reek of misfortune. I warn you. Go apologize and compensate the families of those three immediately. Do not let this escalate and tarnish our Jiang family's reputation." "Your Jiang family's reputation is of no concern to me," I retorted, ending the call and blocking all contact with the Jiang family. At last, the world was serene. I began learning to assist my parents in managing their business. Suji Paper Crafts was quite renowned on this old street, though it dealt not with the living. The clientele that frequented our shop were often somber, yet generous. They never haggled, merely presenting a note detailing their requests and the timing needed. My parents would then craft the corresponding paper figures and horses. One night, a well-dressed, middle-aged man arrived, his complexion pale and dark circles under his eyes, specifically requesting my father to create a substitute bride. My father scrutinized him before shaking his head. "Sir, your lifespan is something only you can forfeit. It cannot be replaced." The man immediately knelt, pulling out stacks of cash, pleading for my father to save him. Yet my father remained unmoved, simply stating, "Dust to dust, earth to earth. Find peace." The man left in despair. 3 days later, I saw the news. A renowned entrepreneur in Yun City, Qin, had died suddenly at home. I gradually comprehended that my parents were likely more than mere paper craftsmen. Jiang Nuan's retaliation swiftly followed, not through physical means, but rather a deluge of online condemnation. A post titled "The Wrongly Adopted Heiress," a real-life farmer, and the snake rapidly gained traction across various social media platforms. In the post, Jiang Nuan, under the pseudonym Little Nuan, tearfully accused me, her malicious sister, of numerous offenses. She claimed I had bullied her since childhood, stealing from her, and upon returning to the Jiang family, intensified my malice, not only slandering her behind her back, but also, out of jealousy, using wicked sorcery to cause the demise of her friends who came to check on me. The post included my current address and photos of my family's paper craft shop, portraying it as a den of sinister curses. In no time, I was besieged by a torrent of digital outrage. Heavens, this woman is so vile. A real-life Lingrong? The daughter of a paper craftsman. It sounds ominous. Surely she dabbles in unsavory practices. My heart aches for Little Nuan. This kind of person deserves to rot in hell. Her address is exposed. Are there any brave souls nearby to punish this wicked woman? Before long, a crowd of curious onlookers gathered outside my home, brandishing their phones and taking pictures, even tossing trash towards the shop's entrance. Rage coursed through me, and I yearned to confront them, but my father restrained me. He remained unfazed, seated calmly behind the counter, meticulously painting the brows of a paper figure. "Father, they are being too much. Their mouths belong to them. Let them speak," he replied, blowing ink from the brush tip. "The pure shall remain pure." My mother was leisurely constructing something resembling a skeletal frame in the backyard, which, judging by its shape, appeared to be a giant bird. "Mom, shouldn't we call the police?" I inquired. "Call the police for what?" She chuckled softly. "It's merely a trivial disturbance, not worth our concern. Wan, remember, if you have the ability to take action, there's no need to make a fuss." Observing the calm demeanor of both my parents, my own simmering anger began to dissipate. Indeed, what significance is there in quarreling with a rabble of miscreants? That evening, a drunken young man, brandishing a brick, bellowed about upholding justice and shattered the windows of our home. The sound of breaking glass echoed piercingly through the stillness of the night. Just as I was about to rise, my father restrained me. He approached the door and, Through the shattered window, exhaled gently toward the inebriated intruder. In an instant, the young man's movements froze. The arrogance on his face swiftly morphed into sheer terror. He discarded the brick, clutched his head, and writhed on the ground, emitting inhuman wails. A ghost? There's a ghost. Don't come near. Don't come near. He scrambled away, leaving chaos and a pungent stench of urine in his wake. The following day, neighbors were abuzz with gossip about the lunatic who had vandalized our property. Now allegedly confined to a mental institution, muttering incessantly about being pursued by countless paper figures. Since that incident, no one dared to cause trouble at our doorstep again. The online vitriol had diminished considerably, replaced by speculations regarding the mysterious nature of our household. I gazed at my father, filled with a profound reverence. He merely patted my head, saying, "It's just a sleight of hand, a simple scare tactic." I hardly believed him. For despite the failure of her online attacks, Jiang Nuan was not one to relent easily. She began to trouble me in the physical realm. The old street where my family's paper crafting shop was located was facing demolition and redevelopment, and the developer was a subsidiary of the Jiang family. Soon, representatives from the demolition office came knocking. The person in charge, a rotund man named Manager Wang, swaggered in with a pronounced beer belly and an exceedingly arrogant demeanor. He slammed a demolition agreement onto the table, nostrils flaring at my father. "Boss Su, it would be wise to sign the document without fuss, lest you provoke further consequences." Without even glancing at the agreement, my father continued with his work. I took a look and saw that the compensation offered was less than half the market value. "Manager Wang, don't you think this compensation is rather paltry?" I asked. Manager Wang shot me a disdainful glance, sneering, "What do you know, little girl? This is the standard rate for this area. Let me make it clear. Our Jiang group has secured this land, and anyone who dares to resist will face our wrath." His words dripped with threats. My father finally lifted his gaze, looking at Manager Wang with calm, unwavering eyes. "From the Jiang family? And what of it? Tell Jiang Zhenghua he cannot touch this land." Manager Wang laughed as if he had heard the most absurd joke. "Old fool, who do you think you are? I'll give you 3 days. If you haven't signed by then, you'll bear the consequences." With that, he and his entourage departed. I felt a twinge of worry. "Dad, do you think they will?" "Don't worry," my father interrupted, returning to his work. "They're mere clowns, incapable of stirring up any real trouble." 3 days swiftly passed. That evening, Manager Wang indeed returned, flanked by a gang of ruffians, aggressively blocking our doorway. They wielded clubs, and leading them was the very drunkard who had been scared off by my father, now inexplicably released. His eyes glinted with malice as he glared at my father, shouting, "Old man, today you'll see whether your sorcery is stronger or my fists are mightier. Smash! Destroy this cursed shop." A swarm of them surged forward. I anxiously clutched my mother's sleeve. She, however, calmly patted my hand and then brought forth the enormous paper bird she had been crafting for several days. The bird was entirely black, with wings spanning nearly 3 meters, and its eyes were made from 2 blood-red glass beads, glinting ominously in the twilight. My father produced 3 incense sticks, ignited them, and reverently bowed 3 times before the paper bird. He then placed the incense in a censer before it. At the moment the incense burned out, a chilling wind swept through the air. To my astonishment, the colossal paper bird began to come to life. Flapping its wings with a rustling sound, its blood-red eyes fixated on the gang at the door. The thugs stood frozen in disbelief. Manager Wang, paralyzed with fear, stammered, "What in the world is that?" The drunken man, gathering his courage, raised his club to strike the paper bird. "You think you can scare me? I'll smash you to pieces." But before the club could make contact, the paper bird opened its beak and emitted a piercing, shrill cry. The sound, unlike anything a mere paper construct could produce, resonated like the death wail of a fierce predator, filled with wrath and despair. Every thug clutched their ears in agony. The drunkard was the first to succumb. Blood poured from his orifices as he collapsed, convulsing for a moment before falling silent. Manager Wang, terrified, turned and fled. The remaining thugs scattered like startled birds, fleeing faster than rabbits. Thus, a potential crisis was averted. I gazed at the slowly calming paper bird, and then at the lifeless body of the drunkard, my stomach churning violently. My father approached, offering me a glass of water, softly saying, "Do not fear, his time was already up. We merely expedited his departure. I realized then that my mother's creation was far from an ordinary paper bird. It was indeed the fabled ghost vehicle that collects souls. 5 The following day, the police arrived. The drunkard's demise was classified as a sudden cerebral hemorrhage, deemed an accident. Manager Wang and his gang were detained for disturbing the peace. The demolition plans were temporarily shelved. The Jiang family seemed to be paralyzed with fear, remaining silent for several consecutive days. I thought the ordeal had come to a close, but Jiang Nuan's malice far exceeded my expectations. Unable to resort to violence any longer, she devised a more insidious scheme. On our street lived a family with the surname Zhang, whose elderly matriarch was gravely ill, nearing her end. The Zhang family summoned my parents to perform a guiding ceremony to ensure the old lady's peaceful passage. The ceremony was scheduled for the midnight hours 3 days hence. During this time, my parents needed to fast and purify themselves, remaining at home to prepare various paper offerings for the ritual. This was customary in our profession and a sign of respect for the deceased. Jiang Nuan somehow caught wind of this information. The night before the ceremony, she appeared at our doorstep with Lin Chen, the man who had inadvertently caused my demise in the original story, carrying 2 buckets of crimson paint. "Suwan, come out!" Jiang Nuan screamed at the entrance. My parents were in the backyard preparing for the ceremony and could not be disturbed. I stepped outside alone. "What do you want?" "Jiang Nuan?" I asked coldly. A smug smile spread across her face. "What do I want?" "Suwan, aren't you adept at conjuring spirits? Today, I shall shatter your ritual." With that, she signaled to Lin Chen. He opened the paint buckets and began to hurl the blood-red paint towards our front door and walls. This paint was no ordinary pigment. It was mixed with copious amounts of animal blood and vermilion, reeking foully. In metaphysical terms, it was the most contaminating substance, specifically used to disrupt various rituals. "Stop." My vision blurred with rage. My parents were preparing for the ceremony for another family, and these impure items were the utmost taboo. Jiang Nuan intended to sever our family's lifeline. Too late. Jiang Nuan cackled maniacally. "Let us see how you filthy rats hiding in the shadows can harm anyone now." Lin Chen, having splattered 2 buckets of dog's blood paint, felt it insufficient and proceeded to retrieve several sheets of yellow paper inscribed with talismans, intending to affix them to my doorstep. Unable to contain myself any longer, I charged at them, engaging in a struggle. However, as a mere girl, I was no match for Lin Chen. He easily overpowered me, sending me crashing to the ground, my forehead striking the stone steps, blood gushing forth. Jiang Nuan looked down at me from her elevated position, her eyes brimming with sadistic delight. "Suwan, this is the consequence of opposing me. You and your repugnant parents deserve to descend into hell together." She commanded Lin Chen to restrain me and personally took a talisman, dipping it into the dog's blood, grinning maniacally as she pressed it towards my face. "I shall ensure your visage is reduced to a pit of decay." In despair, I shut my eyes. At that moment, a beam of golden light erupted from my chest, incinerating the talisman in Jiang Nuan's grasp into ashes. Jiang Nuan shrieked in pain, retreating in haste. I looked down to find the paper effigy resembling Jiang Nuan, which my mother had given me, now radiating a soft golden glow, shielding me from peril. "Jiang Nuan!" Both astonished and furious, exclaimed, "You dare to resist!" She attempted to advance, but Lin Chen held her back, his voice trembling as he pointed to the roof of my house. "Nuan Nuan, look at that." Jiang Nuan glanced upward, her face paling instantaneously. Upon the roof stood a multitude of paper effigies, clad in a variety of garments, both male and female, young and old, all expressionless, their hollow eyes fixated upon them. A chilling wind swept through, causing the temperature of the entire street to plummet. "Run! Quickly!" Lin Chen, terrified, seized Jiang Nuan and fled in a frantic tumble. I pushed myself up from the ground, gazing at the wreckage of the doorway and the filth strewn about, a surge of profound hatred swelling within me. At that moment, my parents emerged from the backyard, their expressions dark and foreboding as they surveyed the scene before them. My father approached me, examining the wound on my forehead, a flicker of unprecedented malice flashing in his eyes. "They have crossed the line." My parents did not tend to the filth outside. My father merely produced 3 black incense sticks, igniting them before placing them at the threshold. The incense burned rapidly, emitting not a blue smoke, but a peculiar black, slithering like serpents into the puddles of dog-esque blood. The foul blood was consumed by the black smoke at a visible rate, ultimately vanishing without a trace, as though it had never existed. Having completed this, my father turned to me, saying, "Wan, go to sleep. We must rise early tomorrow." His tone was calm. Yet I understood that beneath this tranquility lay the imminent tempest. That night, I dreamt of Wan. She lay in her opulent princess bed, sleeping soundly. Suddenly, a paper effigy clad in a princess gown silently appeared at her bedside. It was the very one my mother had given me. It climbed onto Jiangnuan's bed and gradually, it began to merge into her body. Jiangnuan abruptly opened her eyes, emitting a piercing scream. But no matter how she struggled, she could not prevent the effigy from fusing with her. The next morning, I was awakened by the sound of my father watching the news. He had not prepared breakfast that day. Instead, he sat on the sofa, engrossed in the television. A financial reporter was delivering a segment. It has been reported that Jiang Zhenguo's only daughter, Jiang Wan, has suddenly fallen ill in the early hours of this morning. Her skin rapidly deteriorating as if corroded by strong acid. She is currently in critical condition in the intensive care unit, and her prognosis is grim. The screen flashed an image of Jiang Wan being transported by ambulance. Though the picture was blurry, one could still discern the extensive areas of necrotic tissue on her face and arms, a horrifying sight. My father turned off the television and smiled at me. "Daughter, what would you like for breakfast?" I stared at him, speechless. The Jiang family was in complete disarray. Despite consulting numerous renowned doctors, Jiang Wan's strange illness yielded no remedy, leaving her to rot slowly, emitting a foul stench. Zhao Lan remained by her bedside, weeping to the point of fainting. Jiang Zhenguo mobilized all his connections, even enlisting the help of several reputed masters. However, upon witnessing Jiang Wan's condition, these masters all shook their heads, declaring that she had fallen victim to the most malevolent replacement curse, which could only be undone by locating the caster. Jiang Zhenguo first thought of us. He personally arrived at my home, this time with an attitude not of superiority, but rather tinged with desperation and fear. "Master Su, I implore you, save Wan. She understands her mistakes, and if you spare her, we will offer any price." My father was in the midst of painting eyes on a paper horse when he paused at these words. "Mr. Jiang, you have mistaken the culprit. Your daughter's affliction has nothing to do with us. How could it be unrelated?" Jiang Zhenguo exclaimed, "Who else possesses such knowledge?" My mother emerged from the backyard, carrying a basin of paste, her gaze icy as she regarded him. "Jiang Zhenguo, did you ever consider the consequences when your daughter defiled our doorway? She sought to disrupt our rituals and sever our lineage. How shall we settle this score?" "I shall atone for her. I will bow before you." With that, the president of the billion-dollar Jiang Group was truly on the verge of kneeling. My father intervened just in time. "No need for that. Our Su family cannot afford the grand gestures of your Jiang family." He set down his brush, standing tall, locking eyes with Jiang Zhenguo. "The curse upon your daughter was not cast by us. Then it was of her own making." My father's voice was soft, yet it struck Jiang Zhenguo like a hammer. "She has repeatedly sought to bring my daughter to her demise, harboring resentment and attracting unclean entities. That replacement effigy was summoned by her and serves as her own replacement." "Her own replacement?" Jiang Zhenguo did not comprehend. My father offered no further explanation, merely issuing an eviction. "Mr. Jiang, please take your leave. The wheel of karma turns. The consequences your daughter faces are the seeds you have sown." Jiang Zhenguo departed in a daze, perhaps still not grasping the essence of my father's words, but he understood one thing: we would not save Jiang Wan. In desperation, he began to seek out any means to break the curse. Remarkably, he found one. A man who claimed to be the Tiancher of Longhu Mountain, surnamed Zhang, reportedly possessed considerable abilities. Tiancher Zhang arrived at the Jiang household, setting up a ritual outside Jiang Nuan's hospital room, employing peachwood swords and yellow talisman water, laboring throughout the day. In the end, he confidently assured Jiang Zhenguo that the curse had been lifted and that Jiang Nuan would soon recover. The Jiang family rejoiced and rewarded Tiancher Zhang handsomely. However, by nightfall, Jiang Nuan's condition not only failed to improve, but deteriorated rapidly. Her skin peeled away in large patches, revealing bloody, tender flesh beneath, resembling a blood gourd flayed alive, yet her mind remained lucid, writhing in agony on the hospital bed. The doctors administered the maximum dosage of morphine, yet her suffering persisted unabated. Even more bizarrely, Tian Zhezhong met a mysterious demise on his way home. Struck down by a billboard, which bore an advertisement for a funeral service emblazoned with the ominous character Dian. Jiang Zhongguo was plunged into utter despair. He began to wonder if divine retribution truly existed. At that moment, an elder from his company, a man who had served him for decades, approached him, trembling. "Mr. Jiang, there is something I am unsure whether to disclose." "Speak." 18 years ago, when your wife gave birth to Miss Nuan, did you not visit the Bailong Temple in the western part of the city? Jiang Zhengguo's countenance shifted dramatically. This was the greatest secret he harbored. 18 years prior, his business had been precariously close to collapse. He had heard from others that there was a Taoist priest at the Bailong Temple in the western part of the city who could assist people in borrowing luck. He sought out the priest, who informed him that he could lend him 20 years of prosperity. But the cost would be to exchange it for the fortune of his closest kin. At that time, Zhao Lan was pregnant. Greedily blinded, Jiang Zhongguo did not hesitate in the slightest and agreed. He traded the fortune of his unborn daughter, Jiang Nuan, for 20 years of glory for the Jiang group. However, the priest warned that the child whose fortune was borrowed would face a tumultuous fate and would not live beyond 18. The only way to break this curse was to find a child born on the same day, month, and year to act as a substitute, bearing all the misfortunes in her stead. Thus, the tragic mix-up occurred. I, Suwan, was the chosen substitute. I was destined to grow up in poverty and hardship and then die in place of Jiang Nuan at the age of 18. This way, Jiang Nuan would safely enjoy the opulent life that was rightfully mine. Unfortunately, they had not foreseen that I would transcend into this narrative. Nor had they anticipated that my biological parents were formidable figures they could not contend with. My return shattered the borrowing luck contract they had sustained for 18 years. Jiang Nuan's fortune was depleted, and calamities began to recoil upon her. My parents merely facilitated the backlash, slightly refining its power. The paper effigy meant to serve as a substitute was not a curse, but a restitution. It returned the misfortunes that rightfully belonged to Jiang Nuan in their entirety. As the truth unraveled, Jiang Zhongguo was struck as if by lightning. He finally comprehended the meaning behind my father's words. Indeed, you have reaped what you sowed. He collapsed to the ground, his hair turning white overnight. The retribution against the Jiang family was just beginning. Jiang Nuan, in the hospital, endured relentless torment. Trapped between life and death, her consciousness remained clear, acutely aware of every inch of her decaying skin, feeling the maggots burrowing through her flesh. This was 100 times more cruel than simply ending her life. The Jiang group began to face calamity as well. First, their stock prices plummeted, followed by a catastrophic safety incident at one of their construction sites, resulting in several fatalities and leading to a suspension of operations for rectification. Soon after, the tax authorities and disciplinary committees jointly intervened, uncovering years of Jiang Zhongguo's tax evasion and collusion with officials. The Jiang family, once a flourishing tree, collapsed in a matter of weeks. Jiang Zhongguo was sentenced to life imprisonment, and all assets were confiscated. Zhao Lan, unable to withstand the blow, went mad and was confined to a psychiatric hospital. Meanwhile, Lin Qin, the man who had fatally collided with me in the original narrative, was sentenced to 10 years for his involvement in multiple illegal activities of the Jiang family. A once prominent family had vanished into thin air. Jiang Nuan was expelled from the private hospital as no one could afford her exorbitant medical bills. She was discarded like a heap of rotting flesh at the hospital entrance. None of her former admirers or friends came to her aid. Ultimately, it was a kind-hearted janitor who took her to a shelter. I encountered her again while accompanying my mother to deliver paper money to the elderly. She lay on a wooden bed in the corner of the shelter, covered by a moldy blanket, her form barely recognizable. Upon seeing me, a torrent of hatred surged in her murky eyes. She wanted to curse me, but her mouth was too ravaged to produce sound, only emitting a grotesque rasping. I gazed at her calmly, my heart untroubled. Was it pity? Perhaps. Yet all of this was of her own making. Had she not been so malevolent, had she not attempted to take my life time and again, perhaps her fate would not have been so tragic. My mother tugged at my hand. Wan, let us go. I nodded and followed her out of the shelter. The sunlight outside was splendid, warming my skin. I took a deep breath, feeling as though I was reborn. The Jiang family's affairs were finally settled. Our little shop returned to its previous tranquility. My parents continued to craft their paper effigies, welcoming and sending off those unique guests. I gradually adapted to life here, learning the art of paper crafting from my father and the identification of various charms and materials from my mother. To my surprise, I found that I possessed a natural aptitude for this craft. My father remarked that it was something innate in our bloodline, impossible to discard. When I inquired about our family's origins, my father revealed that the Su family was once the unofficial of an ancient royal family, tasked with handling royal secrets and unclean matters. Crafting paper effigies was merely a medium for us to communicate with the other side. We were neither gods nor ghosts, but ferrymen bridging the realms of yin and yang. Our duty was to maintain the balance between these two worlds, guiding souls and punishing the wicked. As for the Jiang family, the Jiang family's borrowing of luck violated the taboo between yin and yang, and they were destined to be punished. We merely facilitated the return of what did not belong to them, my father stated calmly. I nodded, somewhat understanding. One day, a particularly unusual guest visited our shop. He was a young man dressed in a black suit, his demeanor cold and detached. He was strikingly handsome, yet his complexion was excessively pale. Without uttering a word, he handed me a note. The note bore 8 characters in elegant handwriting, 3 souls and 7 spirits, returned to Zhao. My father took the note, glanced at the young man, and nodded, come back in 3 days. After the young man departed, I curiously asked my father, Dad, what does this mean? Has he lost his soul? My father chuckled softly, but did not respond, instead beginning to craft a paper effigy that looked exactly like me. 3 days later, the young man returned as promised. My father handed him the identical paper effigy and instructed me, Wan, prick your fingertip and let a drop of blood fall onto its forehead. Though perplexed, I complied. The moment the blood touched the effigy's forehead, it transformed into a beam of golden light, darting into the young man's body. His previously pallid face flushed with color at a visible rate. He looked at me, his gaze complex, and then bowed deeply. Thank you. With that, he turned and left. I stood there, utterly stunned. Dad, what on earth just happened? My father then explained that when I had been taken away, it was not solely to serve as Jiangwan's substitute. The Jiang family had sought to ensure that this substitute was more realistic and capable of bearing misfortune by employing dark arts to extract 1 soul and 1 spirit from me, sealing them within Jiangwan. This was why I had been frail and ill during my 18 years with the Jiang family, why everything I did met with adversity. The young man was a descendant of a family closely allied with ours. They owed us a favor. After finding me, my parents had entrusted him with the task of retrieving the lost soul and spirit from Jiangwan. It turned out that my feeling of rebirth was not merely psychological. I had finally become a complete person. I looked at my parents, my eyes misty with emotion. They had done far more for me than I had ever imagined. Silly girl, why are you crying? My mother gently stroked my head. We are your parents. Who else would we protect if not you? My father rarely smiled. But he did so now. All right, let us go home for dinner. I've made your favorite braised pork today. I nodded vigorously and linked my arms with theirs. Under the setting sun, our family of 3 cast long shadows. The lanterns of Sue's paper craft shop flickered to life, and the warm, dim light enveloped me in an unprecedented sense of comfort and peace. I knew that this was my true home. The narrative concludes here. Thank you for your attentive listening. And until we meet again in our next tale.